Welcome, everybody, to the Carlette Christmas Show. This morning, we're having a really tough conversation, one that none of us really wants to think about or hear about, but it's necessary. We're talking about drug overdoses, especially those overdoses dealing with fentanyl. Here to talk about a mother's worst nightmare is Julie Hofmans. Her son, Wyatt, died at 23 years old from a fentanyl overdose. We welcome her to the OPT network. Julie, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. Very important subject.
Very important. And I think we all have to just take a deep breath because it's so hard to have this conversation with you. I know that it's been a couple of years since Wyatt's death, but I'm sure the pain is never ending. So first of all, before we talk about Wyatt's end of life, let's talk about Wyatt's life and who Wyatt was.
Right, right. Yeah, I will agree with you. The 2 years has not made a difference. Just the other day, I was just taken aback by just a feeling hit me, and I was like, he's gone. It never goes away. You are right. But Wyatt and I was lucky enough to be very, very close with my son. I mean, he was close with everybody that he was friends with, but for a mom to be that close was, very special. Um, he was 6'5", almost.
Oh,
He
six
always said
foot
he
five.
he 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 would say 6'5". He would love me saying that, but probably more like 6'4.5", 215 pounds. He played football. He was gregarious, loud, but he was like a gentle giant. He really was. He was one of those kids that stuck up for friends that were being bullied, or would be the first one to run up and get a door for somebody. Just a good all around kid. And then as he grew into an adult, he stayed the same way. He really liked people being able to talk to him. He would like say, "Hey, like, come here, talk to me. Tell me what's bothering you." He was that type of person.
Hmm.
Um, and then Wyatt decided one day when he was going to University of Louisville, he said, "I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be an actuary. I don't want to be an architect. I want to be a model." And so he went after his dream. He quit school the end of his sophomore year, and he just got his way into the modeling world, met a beautiful girl. They were both signed with agencies, and his career took off like that just because he was just so good looking and just such a happy person to be around. I hate it because everybody says it, but there was a definite light about Wyatt in his
Hmm.
life.
Hmm.
And, I think that's what everybody remembers about him. And as much as you do say it is very hard, it is not that hard for me, because what I'm trying to do with Wyatt, and I do feel like I'm doing it with him, is I'm trying to save other families from going through this. That is, I mean, if I could save one family from losing their child to this, then I've done my job. I'm very, very passionate about it.
And we're so grateful, Julie, that you are trumpeting this very important message. And so we know that one pill, and you sort of coined this phrase, I think one pill can kill, because it's not like he was doing a massive amount of
Right.
of anything.
Correct. You're very, very on point with that. And that's actually something I was going to say. They want to call it overdoses. And most people think, it's a drag that we have stereotypes in our world, but we do. And, let's be real about that. People stereotype a drug overdoses, some kid taking a handful of pills, and boom, it's poisoning. These children, these adults, these people, they believe that they are buying street drugs from a buddy that got them from a buddy, and that it's just Xanax. That's what Wyatt thought. He just thought he bought some Xanax from a buddy or a friend, wherever it came from. I don't know yet.
Hmm.
There is an investigation, but these kids think that these are just, street drugs. But what they don't realize is it's poisoning. They don't realize fentanyl's in there, and Wyatt's story is on the DEA's network, their website. It's a very important thing to watch for kids to understand that it isn't a handful of pills, it's one pill. And that is the DEA's campaign, one pill can kill. I just happened to say it before they made it a big campaign, but
Sure.
it is, the reality is it's just one pill. It's not a handful. And unfortunately, someone else could take it, and that pill might not have the same amount of fentanyl in it. They might be okay. you know?
Hmm. And so tell us about the night that, or the day that you get the call that
Right.
there has been a problem with Wyatt.
Right, right. So the day before, the night that I got the phone call, I had a really fun, quick conversation with Wyatt. He called. There was all kinds of racket in the background, and he was laughing. It sounded like he was in a great mood. I said, "What are you doing, buddy?" He's like, "We're out hiking." You know, they were hiking, him and his friends, and he's like, "And I've got Boudreaux the dog on a leash, and I've got a backpack on, and I just called to say I love you, Mom." And I said, okay, well, I love you too, son.
Hmm.
And, it was funny because we always kind of raced each other to say who's going to say I love you first. And I hung up, and that was the last time I talked to Wyatt.
Wow.
So that was a Thursday. And then Friday night, we had cooked out. My husband and I had a friend over, and I don't know, it was around almost 10 o'clock at night. And my phone, the screen lit up, and it said, Wyatt's girlfriend. And I just knew, like, I don't know how, but people say you do know.
Hmm.
I knew something was wrong because, she wouldn't call me. She would text me,
Hmm.
So I picked it up and I said to my husband, Grant, I said, Grant, something's wrong. Something is wrong. And I picked it up and Katie said, Julie, you need to get to the hospital soon. And I said, what do you mean? What's going on? She said, I went downstairs and I found Wyatt unconscious. And I said, I don't even remember what I said, honestly.
Hmm.
We got in the truck my husband drove. We got down there. We lived a good bit away. It took about 40 minutes to get there. And, you know, once we got there with all the COVID restrictions and everything going on, it was a little difficult to just get inside. But once we finally did get inside, myself, my wife's father, my ex-husband, my husband, my other two children, we all finally got to go in. And for me, it was clear that we weren't going to see Wyatt again. He was on life support. And they were trying to figure out what was wrong. And it wasn't
Hmm.
until a few days later that they did the blood work. You know, they thought it was just Xanax, but then they did additional blood work and it was fentanyl.
So, was Wyatt's girlfriend able to shed any light on why he had been unconscious? And had she been doing drugs with him, if you know?
Right, right. So I do know that evening, I used to be really close with Katie, but she's, I think she's trying to find her own life. And I know that this is very hard for her. I mean, she found him. I can't imagine the impact on her life that must have done to her. But I would say that her and Wyatt both did a Xanax that night, and both thought it was just going to be okay. And it probably was. But fast forward to they both fell asleep on the couch, which is what Xanax does, makes you sleepy. And then they both fell asleep probably like 9 o'clock. And then Katie woke up and Wyatt wasn't on the couch anymore. And she went downstairs and she told us this story. This
Hmm.
is for real.
Hmm.
She went downstairs. They had like a spiral staircase to go downstairs from the TV room. And the minute she got down there, she saw Wyatt sprawled out by the bathroom toward the kitchen. And the coroner told me that probably what happened was Wyatt probably thought, Friday night, Ken, might as well take another one. And that, in theory, is what they think happened because then that other Xanax pill with fentanyl in it put Wyatt over the edge. You can have a certain amount of fentanyl in your body, but any more and it kills you. It just makes your breathing slow way down. They said that Wyatt didn't suffer. He probably took it and just laid down and quit breathing. And luckily, Wyatt was an organ donor, so he saved a bunch of people's lives. And that's my silver lining. It makes
Hmm.
me feel like he is still here.
So, before you find out, Julie, that it's fentanyl, how do you go through the days leading up to the point where you
I
find out what it really is? Do you have a sense that maybe it
Yeah.
was drug induced?
Well, I basically on Sunday, so I can't do the math right now, but
Sure.
he died on April 5th. Why that's when they pronounced him. That was a Sunday. It was like Good Friday and then Easter was coming and it was just so unbelievable because why it was pretty spiritual. Um, when they do a test to find out if you're brain dead. And on Sunday, that's the day they pronounced Wyatt. But then I had to stay with him in the hospital. Basically, I wouldn't leave because they were trying to, find all the people to coordinate that. And that honestly was the craziest thing is when the coroner came in to have me sign the papers, it said accidental overdose Xanax. And I was like, there's no way. You don't understand. There's got to be something else. And it was at that point that the coroner, he said, did you want me to run more tests? And I was like, well, heck yeah, I want you to run more tests. I mean, yes. And so he ran more tests and it took like almost 16 days. That was pretty agonizing because at that point, all we thought was it was Xanax. And so 16 days later, I believe it was, we got a phone call from him and he said, Julie, maybe take a seat. Are you alone? And I said, no. And he said, there was, he gave me the number, which I've since forgotten, but amount of fentanyl in Wyatt's blood. And so that's when we knew that that was what killed him.
Why did it become your mission in your mind to share a story when you could have said that he had just died from something else?
Right, right. I knew. I think it came to me in the hospital with Wyatt. I listened to a lot of Coldplay music with him because that was his favorite band. And like I say, when I say 5 days, I mean 5 days. I don't think I slept but an hour. Maybe I held his hand, I brushed his hair, I talked to him. You know, yeah, medically he was gone, but to me, he was not. And I just, I was with Wyatt when he signed the thing on the driver's license and make you an organ donor. I took him there and he asked me, he's like, should I sign it, Mom? And I was like, no, don't sign that. That's yucky. I don't want you to be an organ donor. Yucky. And he was like, Mom, seriously? Come on. If something happens to me, God forbid, if something happens to me, though, I want to help people. And that just stuck in my mind because that's all I'm doing. I'm not making Wyatt look ugly. I'm being honest. I'm being real. Wyatt died because, it's not fun to say. It really isn't. But a choice that Wyatt made took his life. He didn't know where that pill came from. And kids are doing that. And so that I thought, well, Wyatt wanted to be an organ donor. He wanted to help people. He loved helping people. I was really close with Wyatt. I'm not going to lie. Wyatt took a pair of Gucci sneakers and he wrote on Sharpie on the sole, truth, not lies on the right shoe. And I see these things all the time and I'm like, he would want the truth be told, and some of his friends joined hands with me on that, some of them were like, you're making Wyatt look like a bad guy. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Kids are experimenting with drugs. It's the bottom line. I was lucky enough to be close enough to my son to know that, but I wish I would have known about fentanyl and stuff off the streets from a buddy. Heck, you can get it on the internet now. You can get on Snapchat and, I don't want to say wrong things, but you can get on the web.
Sure.
And get drugs now.
Has it been healing for you in some way to keep Wyatt's memory alive, his dream of becoming an incredible model? Is it
Absolutely.
Is it helping you?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, that is what I said on one of the first interviews I did is why not make Wyatt a poster child? I mean, why not? I mean, we have models that, pose for pictures to, sell products. Why not put this beautiful child who made a mistake and took a pill and, like I said, on the paper, why did they use that picture on the paper? Why didn't they use this picture, this lovely child? Because, I mean, he wanted to be a model. He wanted to be famous. He was like, Mom, I'm going to buy you a car someday when I'm famous. He wanted it and he was going to work for it. And his life got cut short. And nothing ever came to me other than the truth, honestly. And as much as some of my family, I'm super close with my son. Not so much with my daughter. I think she's kind of sad that I'm doing this, but I'm doing it. I don't want people to go through this, and you know how children are. Even 30-year-olds are doing this, 40-year-olds, but you just can't trust anything unless it comes in a bottle with your name on it. You can't.
Do you think that this, in a way, is keeping you sane? Because you were saying, There are
Yeah,
those people that say, "Why are you doing this?"
yeah, I do. I think I've been nonstop working on it, but I also teach and ride horses and I have other stuff that I do and I golf and I try to keep myself healthy mentally and physically throughout my life. But for me to manage, which is why I reached out to that lady in Washington, for me to manage losing Wyatt, I think in a way I'm I'm keeping him here a little bit in my heart. I talk about him a lot. This is his thumbprint on my necklace. The fact that he's on the front page of the newspaper, that used to be a big deal. The newspapers aren't that much of a big deal anymore, but it's getting out there. People are, 11,000 views on YouTube. Who knows how many on the DEA website? People are hearing it. I did one production where I went to a school and we played the video. The kidney recipient was there and his wife. And so we did sort of a joining of this is really bad doing drugs that you don't know where they came from. Fentanyl kills, but look at the bright side. It saved this man and his family's life. I want to go to schools. I want to preach to kids. I
Hmm.
want to tell them don't make choices that could take your life. It's not
Sure,
that hard to say no. You know.
sure. And the woman that you were alluding to in Washington was a mom
Yeah.
very much like yourself.
Yes. Yes. And the fact that her husband is a minister and he preached on Sunday, that's a lot stronger than I could ever possibly think of being. But um, when they reached out to me all the way from Washington State and they had just found Wyatt's story, somehow I thought, I can help her. They went they went to his apartment last night and she texted me on her way, and I said, you just be strong. You have to be strong. You can do it, you know, and that's my mission. I'm not special. Wyatt's not special. We're just regular old Joes, but there's a definite message. And it's really, one pill can kill.
Absolutely. Julie, thank you for your courage. We feel your heart and your pain. It is absolutely, it's palpable. You can feel it. Every parent can feel it. It is a nightmare that none of us wants to have to live, but we hope
No, you don't.
that by sharing Wyatt's story, that it will get the message to all, whether they're
Absolutely.
young adults or old adults, that one pill can kill.
Absolutely.
And I think that this is an important statistic for everybody listening and watching to understand that for the first time in our nation's history, over 100,000 people, Americans, have died of drug overdose in a single year. That was between 2020 and 2021. And they're expecting those numbers to be exponentially higher in the
Absolutely.
coming years. So, Julie, you know, we hope that you sharing your message will reach the hearts of somebody and
Absolutely. It
make them
will.
make a different decision.
I hope so. I preach to kids all the time. Not preach, but I tell them all the time. I walk up to complete strangers and say, let me tell you something. Please be smart. Do not do drugs if you don't know where they came from. You know,
Absolutely.
simple.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for having me.
Julie, thank you too, and may God continue to bless your heart and keep you on this long, arduous journey. And I hope
Thank you very much.
that you will eventually heal. I mean, no mother wants to know, no parent wants to know what it's like
Right.
to lose or to bury a child. And there are no
Yeah.
words other than to
There are
ask.
no words. You are right. You
Yeah.
said a mouthful. There are no words, but I'll see Wyatt again. We'll be together again.
Yes, you will. Julie, may God
Thank you.
continue to bless your work.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it so much.
Indeed. Hey, everybody, stay with us. We're back right after this.